Hi, it's Steve. Today we'd like to show you how to change the heater assembly on your dryer. If your heater assembly has failed, you will need to remove the front of your dryer to access it, but it's a really easy job to change. Let me show you how we do it. Now our next step is to release the front panel from the main top. There are two screws that are tucked just inside the door opening that we need to remove. A fairly long screw. Now with those screws removed, we can then lift up on that top and just pull it slightly forward. It is attached to the console at the back with 3 plastic clips, so we want to be gentle when we lift that up and pull it forward. Once we've released the spring clips at the back, we're going to slide that whole main top to our left, and that disengages it from the 3 tabs on the control panel. We can then set that top aside. Now with the main top off and out of the way, we're next going to remove 2 retaining screws that come in from the back of the front panel and secure it to the cabinet. You'll need to support that front panel so it doesn't drop off the cabinet. And then just hold the weight of the drum, tilt that front panel forward. Then we can lift it off the base of the dryer and just pivot it around to the left so that we can disconnect the harness for the door switch. Just locate that harness and then disconnect the single wire connector first, and lift this tab out of the way. You can remove the 2 wires from the switch. Now with the front panel removed from the main cabinet, we could actually take that drum out to access our heater, but you need somebody to support that front panel the whole time. So it may be easier just to disconnect the wire harness to the switch and then set the panel out of the way. Now the single wire connector, you may need a small flat blade screwdriver to release the tab on it. Just separate that one. Next we can flip this little cover out of the way, and that will give us access to the other 2 wires that go to the door switch. Just take note of the location on them. Now once that's disconnected, we'll pull the panel right out of the way. Now next we need to release the belt from the idler and the motor. Now to remove that belt, we'll need to reach in on the left side from the front, find the belt, come in through from the center, locate the other end of that belt and the idler pulley. Then we're just going to pull that idler towards the center of the dryer, roll the belt off of the motor pulley, release the tension on that idler, slide the belt off, and then we can lift the drum out. Now to remove the drum on this model, we're simply going to support the weight of the rear of the drum with the belt and grasp the front of it, and then while holding the cabinet secure, we'll just pull that whole drum forward. Now you may need to spread the sides of the cabinet just slightly to allow it to fit through, and then pull the whole assembly completely. Now with the drum out of the way, the next step should be to remove the wires that are attached to the heaters and to the thermostats and thermal cutoffs. So just take note of where the wires are located. Now once we've removed all the wires to the thermostats and cutoffs, we'll next remove the 4 screws that secure that housing to the back of the dryer. And be sure to support it as we remove the last screw. Now next we'll need to transfer those thermostats onto the new housing. Just remove the mounting screw, lift the thermostat away, position it on the new housing. Tighten the retaining screw. And now we're ready to reinstall the new heater. So we'll start by positioning one of the screw holes. And then just put it in snug enough that we can still maneuver the housing. And then rotate it into position for another screw. And then install the 2 remaining ones. And then make sure that we have all of the screws secure. Then next, we'll reinstall the wires to the thermostats and thermal cutoffs. And inspect each of those wire terminals. Make sure that there's no signs of any arcing or corrosion on them. And if there is, you'll need to replace them. And also make sure that they fit on nice and tight. If any appear to be loose, we'll use our needle nose pliers and just crimp so that they're nice and tight. Now once we have all of the thermostats reconnected, we'll next connect the wires to the heater element itself. Again, make sure that the terminals are nice and tight. And now we're ready to put the drum back in place. Now when reinstalling the drum, we want to make sure that we line that bearing up in the center of the heater housing. And we'll also need to just spread the front of that cabinet just slightly so that the drum will fit in between and support the weight of it with the belt. Now once we have it inside the cabinet and the bearing is situated properly, it should rotate easily on that. And then just let the weight of the drum sit on the blower housing. Then we're going to reach in both the left hand side and through the center and wrap that belt around the idler and the motor pulley. So I'm going to take that belt, bring it up over top of the idler, Put the flat side of the belt against the idler. And just grasp that idler pulley and the belt. So we take the tension off of the belt, and then we can slide it down over top of the motor pulley. Make sure it sits firmly in that motor pulley. The flat side again is centered in the idler. Now just rotate the drum a couple turns to make sure that it's going to stay in place. And now we can begin to put the front panel back on. So next we'll put the wires back on the door switch. So just lift that cover out of the way. And locate the wires, tuck them down in underneath. Make sure they fit on that switch nice and tight. And then tuck that tab for that protective cover in place. Reconnect the single wire harness. Make sure it's pressed in firmly so that the locking tab engages. Now to put the front panel back on, we want to make sure that we locate these 3 slotted openings in the bottom of that panel and situate those over top of the tabs on the base frame to support that front panel. Once those have been set into place, we'll next need to lift up slightly on the front of that drum so that we can tuck the front bearing in underneath the opening of the drum. Then line up the locating tabs on the side. Once we have it flush between the front panel and the cabinet, we can reinstall the retaining screws. Now, once we have those front panel screws tightened in place, we're ready to put the main top back on. And again, we're going to set that on top of the cabinet. We want to make sure that we line up these 2 slotted openings over top of those 2 tabs that are bent up on the top of the cabinet. The ends of that main top are going to tuck in under this cross support. And we also need to line up those 3 slots with the tabs on the console. So we'll start with that. Hold it upright, line up those 3 tabs. Make sure it's pressed up against that console. Slide it to the right so that it engages that control panel. And we'll pull it just slightly forward. And then press it down in each rear corner. Line up those 2 slotted openings with the tabs on the cabinet. And then press it down into place. Now we'll open the door up again and replace the 2 retaining screws at the front. We can now push the dryer back into position. We're now ready to reconnect the power, and our repair is complete.